The woman stared blankly at the bustling scene of the hilltop. A year and more having passed since the defeat of the Saviors, Maggie kept asking herself if she could truly move on from Glenn's death. The answer was a resounding no, and now Oceanside's secret killing of the Saviors has inspired Maggie. So it's time to end the feud. On the other side, the Saviors people keep disappearing and they can't even find any clues, so they're leaving en masse. Rick could only watch helplessly as the Saviors left. Later, Rick stood by the bridge, gazing at the river's increasingly turbulent waters, a sign that the rising tide was approaching. The bridge will not be able to hold up without a fixed bridge. Rick had hoped Eugene could find a solution, but Eugene explained that they lacked the manpower. Repairing the bridge before the tide came was practically impossible, especially with two massive herds of walkers roaming nearby. And that wasn't the worst part. Carol was preparing to lead the people of the kingdom away, as staying behind held little purpose anymore. Rick asked about the fate of the Salvation Hall, reminding Carol that she was their interim leader, but Carol replied, "Do you really think they need a leader? Most of them don't want us telling them what to do. They'll decide who they want to be, and there's nothing we can do to interfere." Rick could only nod in understanding. Yesterday, they were all together, working towards a common goal with laughter and camaraderie. Today, they were parting ways. Was his approach the right one? As Rick pondered, Jerry rode up on his horse, delivering news from the hilltop. Maggie had gone to the Alexandria safe zone. According to Jesus, Rick needed to know, and he said, "You'll understand what it means." Rick realized that Maggie must have gone to kill Negan. He immediately used his walkie-talkie to contact the Alexandria safe zone relay station, instructing them to relay a message to delay Maggie. Daryl was eating and watching the scene. What Rick doesn't know is that on the other end of that walkie-talkie is this Oceanside kid. They were also going to cover Maggie. Daryl pretended not to know what was happening and approached Rick to inquire. Rick shared Maggie's plan before preparing to ride back. Daryl offered Rick a ride on his motorcycle, suggesting it would be quicker. They set off, Daryl pushing the speed as if genuinely in a rush. At an intersection, Daryl suddenly turned the other way. Rick sensed something was wrong and urgently told Daryl to stop the bike.
Hey, pull over!
What is this?
You know exactly what this is. This time, man, it's gonna go the way it was supposed to.
You messed with the relay?
Yeah, that message didn't go through.
Just as Rick was about to use the walkie-talkie to reconnect with the relay station, Daryl knocked it out of his hand. The two brothers engaged in a physical altercation again, resulting in them being thrown about. When they looked up, they saw a massive pit, at least 7 to 8 meters deep. This is really bad. The walls of the pit were smooth, and Rick's attempts to climb out were in vain. Frustrated, he let out an expletive. To Rick, Negan's death meant repeating past mistakes and rendering the previous war futile. Daryl doesn't care about Rick's nationalistic views. He just knows that Negan's death is good for Maggie. Rick continued, explaining that he understood Maggie's perspective. She hadn't set foot in the Alexandria safe zone since the war's victory and had even hanged Gregory. The reasons were clear, and Rick wasn't blind to them. And Daryl's direct rebuttal is that you're not blind, but you're pretending not to be. He reminded Rick that if not for Glenn, he wouldn't have survived this long, found his wife, located Carl, or met any of them. All of this was thanks to Glenn. Had Rick forgotten?
Keeping him alive is how we make sure it won't!
No. Keeping him alive is giving him hope that it will.
Michonne talked to her. She came to camp. She was coming around.
Yeah, well, she was trying. The truth is, she just couldn't live with it. Just like Oceanside.
Oceanside. You saying Oceanside killed those saviors? Hurrah.
I'm saying they got what they deserved.
You knew, and you didn't say anything.
Truth is, I couldn't live with it either.
If this doesn't work, if she kills Negan, he becomes a martyr. The war was for nothing. Every person who died for nothing. Carl died for nothing.
What about the rest of us? You don't think after all the shit we've been through, we couldn't handle it?
You know that's not true.
Truth is, you don't have enough faith in us, asking us to have faith in all these other people. And I would have died for Carl, died for you. You know, chasing something for him that ain't meant to be, man. But you gotta hear me. Let him go. just gotta let him go.
I never asked anyone to fall.
I know. Maybe you should have.
While the two brothers were arguing, inside the bridge repair camp, Carol is organizing the evacuation when she sees what looks like movement in the woods. The saviors had returned. The man leading them had acquired a handgun. They came back because they figured out Oceanside killed their man. So they came back for revenge. Carol won't budge. The men taunted her. "You're just a weak woman who got lucky." The strongest woman on Rick's team is being called weak. One day the men would learn what Carol was capable of. Carol lowered her gun as if she was truly compromised. The men came forward and took the keys to their weaponized car.
It's gonna draw those herds.
Let's back to the camp.
Realizing the urgency of the situation, they needed to escape quickly. The camp had devolved into chaos. Darrow urged Rick to use his strength to climb out first. The first attempt failed, but the second time, Rick managed to grasp a tree root above. But at this moment, there were even zombies walking towards the pit from above, and there was more than one of them. Thankfully, Rick dodged just in time. Darrow was taking care of zombies below. Rick tried the root next to him. It was very strong. He asked Darryl to try to grab it. Darryl immediately stacked up the zombie's body and stepped on it and slowly started to climb up. But, during this process, zombies kept falling down continuously. Slowly more and more zombies below them reached out their hands towards them, just waiting for them to fall down. Rick successfully climbed up, but as he steadied himself, he froze upon hearing the distant roars of a zombie horde. The gunfire must have drawn them. Rick needed to pull Darryl up quickly. Darryl is in a very precarious position. Falling meant certain doom. Rick grabbed a branch and extended his hand to pull Darryl. Darryl's situation was precarious, but he managed to hold on. Rick exerted all his strength, giving one last powerful tug that finally brought Darryl up to safety. Before they could catch their breath, the zombie horde had arrived. Dispatching two zombies, the brothers sprinted toward the motorcycle. As they walked along the road, Rick spotted the white horse that had bolted from the camp, and a plan formed in his mind. He urged Darryl to leave quickly, deciding to stay behind himself and lead the horde of zombies away on horseback.
What? I'm staying.
No, man.
The river. Giving up on it, not yet.
Take him to the bridge. It ain't ever gonna hold him. They'll get washed out. There ain't no other way, man.
I'm not destroying the bridge. Slicing the bridge. I'll find another way. We need it.
Seeing that Rick was so determined, Darryl didn't say anything else but to pray for his good brother in his heart. But Darryl, who was always cold, said something rare.
You too.
Hey. He's safe.
But they did not expect that this word of concern would be their last conversation. And at the junkyard, Gabriel was tied to a flatbed truck. Jotty's plans to use the zombies to turn Gabriel into one of them, as it is the only way for him to join the mysterious organization. From this, it could be deduced that the enigmatic mentioned by the mysterious person might refer to the infected humans. Back when Jotty's captured Negan, it was likely for the same purpose. Despite his fear, Gabriel recounted his past experiences to Jotty's. Jotty's listened to his with a look of sadness. She really wanted to be with Gabriel for the rest of her life. In the end, Jotty's couldn't bear to do it, but Jotty's put a piece of cloth over Gabriel's mouth and nose until he passed out. When Gabriel awoke again, the junkyard was empty. No matter how he called out, there was no response. However, a farewell letter remained in his clothing. Meanwhile, Rick rode the white horse, leading the zombies forward, but upon reaching a crossroads, he realized he had oversimplified the situation. Another massive horde of zombies was approaching from a different direction. The convergence of these two hordes was beyond his control. The once calm horse beneath Rick grew restless. Sensing the aura of death, the zombies drew nearer, and the horse grew increasingly agitated, eventually throwing Rick off. What followed were agonizing screams. Rick was thrown onto a slab of stone and a steel bar pierced his body. This is bad. The zombies from both directions are about to converge, and Rick couldn't use his strength at the moment. Gradually, his consciousness began to fade. Could it be that today was his day of reckoning?